Welcome to today's episode of Between Neens and Deens. My name is Nina, and I'm joined by my best friend, partner, and baby daddy, Dayon.
And together, we're a couple of 20-something-year-olds just trying to navigate this whole first-time parenting thing.
So we're laying it all out there and talking about all the things you wish your parents told you about love, sex, and happiness.
Welcome back. I hope everyone is staying safe out there with the social distancing, which made us think this is the perfect time to think about which friends you should keep.
That was such a smooth integration. But yeah, we're going to be talking all about toxic friendships, friendship breakups. I feel like this topic isn't super talked about a whole lot. Like, I think people talk about obviously romantic relationships and maybe being in a toxic romantic relationship, but I feel like everybody has, friends, and everyone's kind of experienced behaviors in their friends where you're like, ooh, did I like that? Is that okay? Is that normal?
And if you don't have friends, that's fine as well.
This will tell you the people to avoid when you're out there making friends.
Exactly. All right. Should we go through some articles that we have here?
So yeah, I just did a really quick Google search and I looked up signs that you're in a toxic friendship. And so I just found a Women's Health article. It's titled 13 Signs You're in a Toxic Friendship and How to Get the Fuck Out. When I asked people on my Instagram for any questions that they had about this topic, a lot of them were about what are the warning signs? How do I know that I'm in a toxic relationship or friendship? And actually, some of them were, how do I know if I'm the toxic friend? Ooh. Which is a very interesting one because you need to be able to hold yourself accountable
100%.
if you're gonna hold your friends accountable. So we're just gonna do a quick little rundown of a couple of different signs and then just anything that we have to share because obviously we've been through some things. We've had some friendship fallouts and
definitely.
The first one is you're giving more than you're getting. And I think this is a huge one. The thing is also toxic friendship just sounds so negative and so heavy, there's so many connotations that come with it, but there are people, in my experience, that can be toxic, but also can be great in a lot of other ways. It doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't fully define who they are. It might just be your relationship to them. Their other friendships with other people might be very, very different. Yeah. And I think I can call myself out and say that I've definitely done some behaviors that maybe would have classified me as toxic, but does that make me a bad person? No, but does that maybe mean that me and this person shouldn't be friends? Probably.
Yeah, it's just how you click with that certain person, and it doesn't mean you're a bad person, you're still good for somebody else. So.
Yeah, so I think that's the first thing that I kind of want to put out there, that if somebody were to call me out and be like, you're being toxic, I would feel very triggered by that. Yeah. But it's it doesn't fully define you as a person. It just might be that your behaviors are not aligning with what they want or what they need, and so
just means that you guys just aren't working out.
Yeah, that you need to reevaluate. Yeah, it's not a one size fits all. Everyone can be friends. Everyone has different behaviors and needs and wants and ways to be communicated with, and so I think just being aware of what you need is going to help you figure out if it's time to walk away. So yeah, the first one, you're giving more than you're getting. This is a really clear indicator of your needs not being met or their needs not being met, because in a situation like this, you might be the friend that's always there for them, always supporting them and encouraging them, and they're really doing nothing for you. They're not showing up the way that you're showing up for them. And I think it's pretty clear to see when that's happening. I've definitely had friends like that before where I just felt like I'm always there for them. I'm always there to be a shoulder to cry on and support them and hey, are you good? You okay? And I think this happened a lot more for me when I was younger, when I was in middle school and high school, and I wasn't very aware of, okay, this might be toxic behavior, because at that point you're so young that you think that's just what friendship is. And, maybe this person is just kind of mean, or maybe they don't like you that much or whatever, but you don't think it has something to do with your dynamic. I think if anything, I used to blame myself more when this would happen, because it's what am I doing that's not good enough for them? But it might just be that for whatever reason, they can't show up for you. And I've definitely had a friendship when I was in college where she needed a lot from me, and I really just felt like I wasn't able to give that to her, and I didn't know why. I could give to my other friends and I could give them my time and I would text them back in a timely manner. I would hang out with them, and I just felt like with this person, it's almost as if I couldn't justify it. And I don't know if it's because subconsciously I knew that she wasn't going to give me the same thing back. That I would need. And so then I was like, well, I don't want to kind of waste my time doing that for this person. But for whatever reason, whenever she wanted to hang out or she wanted to FaceTime or whatever, I just I didn't feel excited about it.
So yeah, even the little things goes a long way. So Like even just having friends that, like when we throw our cereal poppers, for instance, like having the friends that really came through, like that was like a big sign. And you don't even think about it, but you're like, if they throw an event, if they do anything, like I'm there. Like if they're throwing a little party at their house or whatever it may be, like I'm there no matter what. And that's when you know it's like a good balanced relationship in regards to like giving back, and also just like being there for someone when they need it.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be able to know, like a lot of friendships that I had where you're friends when it's great and when it's happy and when you're getting drunk and it's fun, and then the moment that shit hits the fan and you're sad and you need somebody and it's not fun anymore, like the people that stick around, that's when you know like that's a real good friend. I mean, yeah, it's easy to party with somebody, it's easy to be friends when everything is happy and rosy and great, but like who's actually there?
Yeah, if you have to force them, that's already a sign that like either that person is not interested or it's just the certain things aren't being reciprocated the way they should.
Yeah, I feel like this is a really easy one to kind of pinpoint in a romantic relationship. Like I think you hear that a lot, like, oh, well, I just feel like I'm giving and they give me nothing in return. Like I'm always fighting for it. If you really just apply that to a friendship, like I think sometimes in friendships we just make excuses for people, which is another sign that you might be in a toxic friendship. But I think we just are so used to making excuses, like, oh, they're just like that, or it's fine, like that's just who they are.
When
like
you have to constantly explain
when you constantly have to explain it away. And I think that for me, I don't know if this is just me, but for me in a romantic relationship, it's a lot easier for me to pinpoint and be like, this is not okay. But in a friendship, that line weirdly gets blurred. I don't know if it's just because we tend to have more friends, and so you kind of have friends that fulfill different things. And you know, if this person isn't really gonna be there for me when I need them, but like they're fun to hang out with, like whatever, then maybe I'll still keep them around. But I think as you get older too, you kind of realize like, hey, if you're not actually like a true friend, like what is your purpose of being here?
And we're talking about like core friends.
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing too, like our circle of friends has changed so much just in the last 2 years that we've been together. But if you think all the way back to like when I was in middle school to now, like the role that friendship plays in my life has changed so much. Like I went from, you know, in middle school having like my tight girls, it was probably all toxic, but we're all really young. So it's like you're learning at that age, you know, like you don't know what's toxic and what's not because nobody knows how to do it right.
What is the word for when it's like, when they're your friends because of the conditions, or like because of, let's say you're in class together, or like
I think there might be a word for it, but
I
can't remember.
It's like situational. Is it like
situational friends?
Situational.
I don't know. That doesn't sound sexy, but let's just go with that. But yeah, 100%. Like same as when I was in high school. I only had 115 people in my graduating class, so you know you got to find your core group of friends out of 115 people. But it's like I had so many people that I would consider close friends when I was in high school, and I definitely thought that I would stay in touch with at least 8 to 10 of them once I like went to college and became an adult. And now I really only stay in touch with, I mean, I don't really even stay in touch with them. It's just when we're in the same city that we like link up, and it's exactly the same as it was in high school. And that's just my style of friendship.
Those are the best.
I don't really like, and I can't really maintain friendships where like we constantly need to be texting and FaceTiming. Like I cannot do that. I'm just not that type of person. And there are people out there that are like that. But like if you're gonna be friends with me, like you gotta know straight up I'm not that type of person. And you're gonna be sorely disappointed if you try to FaceTime me all the time because I'm just not gonna pick up. But it's not because I don't love you. There's no hard feelings. It's just that everyone has different needs, and I just am a very low maintenance friend, and I expect low maintenance.
I feel the friends that make it through are the ones that have that same general understanding of like, even though we haven't talked for months, but like when we do, it's the same.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's what I want. And I definitely, when I went to college, kind of for the first time, I encountered friends that wanted that really tight, like we're gonna talk all the time and we're together all the time, and really intense friendships that I had never experienced before. I mean, I love them, like, and I loved, you know, having that circle of friends, and these were all girls, and I loved having my group of girls. But then it took me a really long time to realize that that's not who I am and that's not what I want. And it almost felt like for me that I was in a relationship with some of these people, and I was like, I didn't sign up for this. Like, this is way exhausting. Too much. Yeah, it was very exhausting for me. And like, that's the thing, is that for them, when they were in high school, they had those type of relationships with their friends. So it's just that like they expected different things from me, and I could not deliver. Like, I was like, I can't be that person for you 24/7. And I'm so sorry if that makes me a shitty person. And I think I really struggled with that. Like, am I a really shitty friend? But I think I just really needed to give myself space and like time to understand that I just needed different things.
Yeah, no one should feel that like they're a shitty friend. I think unless you really are being shitty and you can tell. Yeah, I think sometimes you just gotta come to the realization that it just doesn't work out.
I think like there are situations where like you are being shitty and your friends are gonna call you out and you need to really confront that. But I think when I did get called out, I was like, yeah, but no, like I do still want to be friends with you and I do really care about you, but I can't be there for you 24/7 the way that you need me to. And I think when both parties recognize that, then that's when it was like it's neither of our faults, you know, like it's just that we're not compatible in this way. And it's the same as if you were like, I know I keep bringing it back to like romantic relationships, but I really feel like there are so many parallels because, you know, like they're really intimate relationships that you choose. And at the end of the day, it's like if you are with somebody that's telling you what they need over and over again and you just are not the type of person to give them that, then it's not either of your faults, you know? Like you need to realize that you want and need different things and maybe it's time to walk away because you're just gonna, no matter what you do, like you're gonna be hurting each other.
All right, so that was the first one.
The next one is you no longer trust them. I feel like that one's pretty straightforward. I feel like you have some experiences.
I do.
With this. Do. Yeah.
I definitely had experiences with this. One of my best friends, like literally the homie, like we told each other everything. Like we even said we were gonna be like best men at each other's wedding, like all this stuff. And unfortunately we did have a falling out and it was based on like trust was the big one. So we used to tell each other everything and the general assumption is that when you tell your friends things like that stays between the two of you. But we had this whole situation. I don't want to get into too much detail, but the situation went out of hand and a lot of those very, very personal topics came to surface and was brought out in a way of like ammunition. Yeah, like it was used as ammunition against you. So that's when like all trust gets lost and you realize like that is extremely toxic.
That's very toxic behavior because not only are like is he sharing with other parties things that you told him in confidence, but he's using it against you.
Against me in front of me as well, which is just...
That one's like really big. I mean, the example in the article is, for example, a toxic friend might say they'll pick you up at the airport and then back out at the last minute.
Oh my days. But that's the thing. There was things like that too, though, where it's like very small things as well, like where... Be like, yeah, let's go. Like, we're gonna go, you know, play basketball or something. I'm like, all right, cool. And then you get ready to go, and then they never come get you. And then you hear an excuse maybe an hour later where it's like, oh, yo, like my car broke down or like all this stuff. But then like you know it didn't happen.
Real unreliable.
Yeah, or just would lie for no reason.
Your example or your lived experience is a lot more blatant toxicity.
But I didn't see it because like that's the thing with like childhood friends. You don't see like how toxic it can be because you've kind of been in it for years and you feel like, oh, like this is my brother basically no matter what. So, you know, you kind of have these like things where like, oh, we're going to get through it no matter what because we end up just forgetting about the arguments or the issues and just move past it. But it definitely comes to a certain point where enough is 100% enough and no one should go through like half of that stuff. So.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think that's the thing is that I didn't really realize that I was in toxic friendships until I got to maybe college and adulthood. That's when you're starting to understand like the things that you need and want, and like making friends through that transition is hard, especially when you're growing up with somebody and like you're used to these behaviors and you're used to them being shitty, but that's just your friend. But then it's like you're growing up and you're realizing that you want better, and it's like that's really hard to contend with because I feel like that transition, it affects everybody differently. Like you might either stay on that route of toxicity and like not realizing that maybe you're harming the people around you, or you might realize that you want better. And it's like, how do you stay friends, or like how do you let go of that person?
I've experienced that a lot with like starting relationships as well. So like
saying that they're gonna pick you up at the airport and then they don't.
Or like little things, like for instance, like that friend that when we invite to like our events or like our house parties or whatever, and they say, yeah, I'll be there, and then the day of the event or even after,
it's like an ongoing joke. We were like, yo, should we invite him? Because it's just like, you know, for damn sure he's not gonna show up,
but he'll tell you that he will.
Yeah. And then it's like, we literally had a housewarming party and he said, yo, like I'm gonna be at work but I'll be there later, like are you guys still gonna be there like at 8 p.m? And we're like, yeah, for sure, come through at 8 p.m. At like 10 p.m. he texts us and he's like, oh, like, hey, like, sorry, like I couldn't like make it or whatever. And it's like, okay, like if you know that you just don't want to be somewhere, if you know that you don't want to come, like just stop saying that you will. Like it just makes it worse.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like we anticipate that you're gonna be there. You just, I don't know, it just looks way shittier.
Yeah. And it's happened many times where it's like, yeah, like if someone is genuinely busy, like if a friend is genuinely busy and tell you like that they can't make it, that's not a trust issue. That's, they completely told you, like, I can't make it.
And usually then they're like, hey, like, let's hang out, like, next Thursday or something.
But, like, when someone tells you that they can repeatedly and then actually doesn't come, like, that already, like, yeah, you can't trust this person. You lose that trust. You're like, what is the point? So, like, it's come to a point where it is, like, an ongoing joke for us. But in reality, like, we stopped inviting this person to
It's things. Like, it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't, like, a big, like, we're cutting him out. It just was like, okay, we're just going to stop inviting. Just when you realize,
you can't trust this person. There's no point of, like, trying to even make
his
plans
word
with
does
them.
not mean shit.
Yeah, exactly. You dread checking your phone.
Yeah, I mean, this one is, like, pretty obvious. It's just that this is, like, a gut feeling where you're like, hey, I probably don't enjoy this person as much as I think.
That's kind of rough. That's, like, I mean, if you don't even want to talk to them, or, like, when you see your phone and it's them, you're like...
Some friendships are just so high stress, you know? Like, I've had friends where I hang out with them and I feel so drained afterwards. Or, like, I know that if I reply to them, it's gonna be, like, a whole 200 text message exchange, you know? Like, and I can't sign up for that right now. This kind of goes in line with, like, you knowing where your boundaries are. For me, like, I definitely have people that will hit me up and I'm like, I can't do this right now because you're gonna require a lot from me and I can't give you that right now. So, I mean, it's rough, but I think I'm just very well aware of the type of energy that I want and need, and I just can't give that sometimes.
I've definitely had those experiences as well. Like, for instance, with that photographer guy I met, it's like, when sometimes when they call you or message you, like,
you're like, oh no, that's a big...
you have to answer, and then you like, hey, what's up? But you know damn well you don't want to, so like that's a huge indicator.
And this is not like, and this is what I was saying, like toxic friendship makes it sound so dramatic and rough and huge, but it sometimes isn't even like that. Like, these aren't, I feel like we're not really talking about like our close friends with these situations. These are kind of like not acquaintances, but people that you sometimes kick it with, whatever. And it's just like,
you've had a few good days.
Yeah, you've had a few good days and you're debating whether or not you want to integrate them into like being a close friend. And it's like sometimes they just don't make the cut because you already know like that gut feeling of like they text you and you're like, fuck. If you have that feeling, like, don't go inviting this friend into like your whole social circle and integrating, because like that feeling is not going to go away. And then you will have already brought them so close to your life that it's going to be even harder for you to cut them out of your life.
Those ties,
yeah. So like I've tried to be very good, like as I've gone older, to be very aware of the people that I want in my close circle friends, and then the people that I want as kind of like peripheral friends that I enjoy their company.
I like that.
But like, you know, like I'm not gonna like tell you all my deepest, darkest secrets and get that close to you, because we're just not friends like that. And I can keep you in that circle and we can still be cool, but I'm not gonna move you into the close friends group and then like move you out of it, because that hurts.
Yo,
you know?
This circle sounds lit. Is there like a lineup for it? Do I sign something?
Yeah, there's a wait list, so I'll add you to it. Yeah.
Sick.
The next one being, you don't enjoy spending time with them. This wasn't a huge indicator to me that like this friendship isn't working out for a very long time. Like, I didn't realize this until I was much older, because like I would just be friends with people and I'm like, yeah, like they're fun to talk to or whatever, and like they're friends with my friends. I think that's a big reason why when you're younger you become friends with people, because you're like, oh well, like they're really close to my close friends, so therefore we should all hang out and it's great. But then you realize after you hang out with them that you actually are really sad afterwards, or like you really just feel drained or numb or kind of weird. Mm-hmm. And like you gained nothing from that, like not in that like you need to gain something from the people in your life, but that like you're not a little bit happier. Yeah, you're not a little bit happier, you're not a little bit more at peace, you don't feel a little more reassured. You're just kind of like, that was kind of a waste of 2 hours. Why did I do that? And I definitely, when I was in college, experienced this a lot. And I think like it took me a really long time to realize like you do not need to hang out with these people. They might feel the same way about hanging out with you afterwards, and that's okay. I think the biggest indicator though is when you feel anxious after you hang out with them. Like I've definitely had friends, again in college, either they're criticizing you or they're trying to like push their own beliefs on you, whatever it might be, and then I leave feeling more anxious than when I went into it. And that I think is like a huge indicator.
Or when they don't fully understand your situations as well, that could be quite draining.
Oh my God.
If you have to like explain yourself, over-explain.
I had a roommate when I was in college, and like she would try and give me advice. She would try to give everyone that we were living with advice on relationships, and everyone's just like, please stop talking because nobody believes anything that you're saying. And it was literally like all advice that was like not really applicable. Like if I said that, hey, like I'm feeling really upset because this guy didn't text me back, she'll be like, oh, well, like, maybe you just shouldn't be texting this person. Maybe you should text other people. And it's like, what kind of, who, like, what, just like, in what world is that helpful or supposed to soothe me? Or it just is so far from the target that it was like, just please stop. And so it got to a point where, like, she really was one of my really good friends. And it got to a point where I was just like, I feel so angry after, like, we have a conversation of you trying to give me unsolicited advice or try to give me advice.
Bad advice.
Just bad advice. Yeah, it would be unsolicited or bad. Even, like, when I asked for it, it was still bad. So I was like, I can't handle this. Like, my heart can't take this anymore.
This reminds me of when I was told to be careful who I tell things to.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm just going to leave it there. So yeah, a thing that it took me a long time to learn as well was that I'm not obligated to hang out with anyone. I think that was like a big thing for me to like understand. You are
still learning that. I literally have to tell you that. It's not even just friendships too. It's like exes or like things like that. And you're like, oh, but like I feel bad. And it's
exes.
Like, or not exes, but like people that you like have fucked with. The one specific person.
Oh, whatever.
That's like, oh, I heard this song and I thought of you.
Oh my days.
And like they'll be like, well, I feel bad if I don't reply. And it's like, you don't owe people anything. You don't.
Yeah, it took me a long time to really like understand that. So like a lot of like friends from the past, I felt like because we were close at one point that we should still be close, or like we should still at least be able to like hang out and grab a coffee. But then I did really like feel drained, or like I didn't enjoy it. So yeah, you definitely shouldn't feel obligated to hang out with anyone. I think that was a long time coming for me to learn that. So
I can't say that I've had very many super dramatic toxic friendships, but I think what I have had is a lot of friendships that just no longer serve me. They might have been toxic in really minuscule ways, but for the most part, it's just that, like, hey, we've grown into very different people. We don't have similar interests. We don't seem to really want to check up on each other anymore. It doesn't serve us to be in this friendship anymore. And it's never in a way where it's like, hey, I don't think that we should be friends anymore, because I don't think that that's fair or that that's necessary. For me, I just kind of don't reach out to them as much. And like usually the other party takes note, because I think for the most part, me and the other person tend to understand where we're coming from, and we both just kind of trickle away from each other. And for me, that works really great. But I think you have a really hard time with it because we are living in Vancouver, which is where you grew up, and you have a lot of people,
childhood friends,
a lot of childhood friends.
When I get hit up and they say, hey man, how you been, how's it going, then I can't help but like feel obligated to.
It's so hard when you're a social butterfly.
Ugh, oh my days. What am I gonna do with myself?
Yeah, I'm a lot more introverted, and I'm a lot more to myself just in general, so I'm very good at maintaining my boundaries, but you struggle with it a lot more.
It was good at one point. It's okay, what y'all had in the past was good, and just move on.
Yeah. Well, because sometimes it's like when you try so hard to like keep it alive, like it's not gonna be the same as when it was really good.
And you'll be happier that way. I think, yeah, because after hanging out with people that I felt was an obligation, I did feel like really kind of sad, and Nina would have to pick me back up.
Dan's literally sad afterwards, and I'm like, why did you do that to yourself? It's very nostalgic. That's another thing. I mean, this isn't really on the list, but I've tend to let go of friendships more when all we talk about is other people that we knew. So like this is pretty common with like middle school and high school friends, when it's like we don't actually have anything to talk about. Like I can't share with you like my hopes and dreams and the things that I want to do and like anything of real substance. All we're gonna sit here and talk about is like, oh, did you hear that this person did this or this person, like, and it's just all gossip, and it's just like it doesn't fulfill me in any way. Like it's walking away from those types of conversations and feeling like I didn't really gain much from it. It's like, okay, like, why am I doing this? Because
those were just your situational friends.
Yeah, those are your situational friends. So, like, the next one is you don't like yourself when you're with them. So the article gives an example that maybe you're drinking too much. This just reminds me of Jessica in Love is Blind. All of that was toxic for her. But maybe you're drinking too much, gossiping, which is the example that I just gave. Like, I'm not usually a huge gossiper, but when I'm around certain people, like, that's all I'll do. And I'm like, who am I? Yeah. Or that you're being passive aggressive with them when you're normally super chill. And I think this is why it's kind of hard to pinpoint whether or not a relationship is toxic, because you're like, is this just me? Or is it you bringing it out of me? And I'm not normally like this, you know? Like, I think it takes a level of self-awareness to be able to say, like, no, like, this is who I am. I'm usually super chill, and I'm like very easygoing, and you just bring out this monster in me that like I don't like.
Is there anyone that brings out the party Neens?
I mean, definitely when I was in college. But that's the thing, is that I didn't dislike that part of myself during that time. I think now, if I were to have a friend that brought out that side of me where I was like drinking too much and going to the club all the time, like
I'd be proud of them.
But I mean, like that's just not like that's just like not who I am at this point. So it definitely would be me outside of my regular self to either please this person or to like keep up with somebody that I'm like usually not. Like, I went through so many stages of who I am as a person, and it used to be somebody that partied all the time. It used to be somebody that really enjoyed being the center of attention, and now I really, really don't at all. So it's like, you have to take the time to figure that out for yourself before you can realize, are the people around me causing me to act in different ways that I don't really like?
And I've had those experiences too, predominantly when I was younger. You start acting out of character and you don't realize that you're doing it, but then like usually when you take a step back, you're like, why did I do all those things? Like, that was so unlike me. And
are you talking about the drug-related things?
What? No, not drug-related things. I would say like, yeah, like, or even like when you feel like, oh, like we need to hit on all these girls now because like we're together and that's like what we do when we're together. But then you're like, I don't really want to do all that. I just want to like chill, have a good time. Yeah, like
I don't want to mac on all these girls.
Yeah.
So another indicator would be that they talk shit about you. That's when you're probably in the toxic friendship. You've had other signs and you know they talk shit about you and you still just can't get out of it.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm just here and what do I do?
Or they talk shit to you.
About yourself?
About you to you.
Oh. Well, are they calling you out on like fair stuff? Or is it...
No.
Oh, they're just
Not
talking
fair.
shit. Yeah, not fair.
So like, yeah, going back to like the first friend when I wasn't really giving him as much time and like hanging out with my new girlfriend at that time, be like, man, you being a pussy, like you were like all this stuff, like basically calling all these type of names, and that's
and you're
not
still
okay.
like, that's my best friend.
Yeah, right? It's like, he's still my homie, but it's like, yeah, they're talking shit like right to your face, but then also like probably to other people as well, and yeah, that's toxic, man.
Yeah. I don't know what it is about these friendships, but sometimes when they're just so bad, like, you don't know how to get out of them. Mm-hmm. And you just make excuses. I think that's really hard to contend with or be face-to-face with, is the fact that you might be enabling this type of behavior, or you allow it to happen. So another indicator would be that you compete with them, or they compete with you. And I feel like this would go hand in hand with, like, they feel very jealous. So, like, this could be kind of like your situation where...
I felt whenever I was doing stuff or when I was, like, progressing on myself, if they weren't going at the same level as me, I felt like they were trying to bring me back down.
Company.
Yeah, so, yeah, where that competitive nature comes in, where there's healthy competition, but then there's also, like, that unhealthy.
Well, it's like competition, but you're also still supporting each other. It's like, we can both eat, we can both win. Yeah. There are definitely friendships where it's like, well, if I'm going to be sad and miserable, you're also going to be sad and miserable. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not going to go and do that, like, internship, you know, that you want to do because I also don't have a job, so we both need to be unemployed together. It's like shit like that. When
you're like doing something good or you're just trying to do something, they're like, I can do it better, and then they're like constantly trying to compete with you, but in the same time, I think it's when they're bringing you down while doing it. I think that's the worst.
I think I experienced this a lot when I started my YouTube and I was like starting to like gain numbers and traction, and it was never like somebody was like, oh well, I'm gonna start a YouTube and it's gonna be greater than yours. I mean, that kind of happened.
That happens a lot.
That did kind of happen, but like this was actually my biggest friendship breakup. It's kind of hard because I wouldn't say that we were competing in any way, but it was just that when I was starting to excel and find something that made me really happy, it was just like not being able to understand that like this was a positive thing in my life. And it was very like, who are you becoming? Like, who do you think you are? And at that time, this person that was criticizing me was my best friend. And I just never expected him to like say things like that or to not understand that like, why can't you be happy for me? And like, I think that also happens when I do get into a relationship. Pretty much every single time I've gotten into a relationship, I've had people in my life be like, why are you doing that? Like, you're probably rushing into it and like almost kind of wanting me to stay single, which was very interesting because it's like, if you're going to be in a relationship, that puts pressure on us to be in a relationship. So like all of us need to stay single and like go to the club together. And like, I wouldn't call it overt jealousy or overt competition, but it was just kind of that we all need to be at the same level in life or you feel like you're being left behind.
Yeah, I think it stems from a fear of being left behind, exactly.
Yeah. So when I was growing a lot like in YouTube and social media, there were a lot of people that I just felt couldn't be there for me. And I was like, okay, well, like, you've shown me your true colors, and like, you'll support me when I'm struggling, but you're not going to support me when I'm successful. And like, that's a major red flag for me. I think that whole concept of misery likes company is very telling of whether or not you're in a toxic friendship, because it's very easy to support somebody when you're all struggling, you know, like, you're all like, yeah, we're in this together. But then when somebody breaks through and like actually makes it, are you actually going to be there for them? Or did you just want them to be around you to make yourself feel better?
Yeah. But yeah, even like unhealthy competition in a competitive sport. Yeah, one day where I came back from like college basketball practice, I think that maybe kind of upset him that I was playing college ball and working on my game in a different way, and I made some good plays, and he got really upset and then threw punches at me, which was just so insane, which he never apologized for it. The only apology, quotations around that, the only apology that I received was, hey, do you want to go get beers? And that was literally like, we never addressed it. But
like, in that moment, did you realize like, hey, that's pretty fucked up, like, that's weird? Or were you just like, oh, that's just him?
Literally, that's just him. Yeah, I'm like, that's like, it's just constantly trying to explain like that's just who he is. And no, there was definitely a moment where I was like, fuck this guy, I don't want to be friends with him. Like, that is so messed up. Yeah, he never apologized to me, but like, when he messaged me, do you want to get beers? I was like, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, because it's hard. It's really hard to leave a friendship, even if you know that it's not good, you know?
Yeah.
Because for whatever reason, like, every friendship has its good moments, and you usually try to justify all the bad moments with the good moments. But while you're talking about this, it made me think of another situation. This wasn't with me particularly, but this is like a friend that I had and a friendship that she had with another person, where she felt like she was always the less pretty friend, and her other friend kind of wanted to keep her around because she was the less pretty friend, and so then it made her look better. And as soon as she kind of started glowing up, then her friend would have more and more issues with her and like continue to put her down and continue to like make comments about like her weight or like things like that. And that's very overt jealousy and competition, because if you are in a friendship where your friend is constantly putting you down,
to feel
that's really bad. And like, I luckily haven't been in friendships like that. I've been in a couple where it is competitive just in terms of like, you know, like your creative abilities or your dance abilities, whatever, things like that, kind of like what you're talking about with basketball. But if you are in a friendship where this person is constantly putting you down and making you hate yourself so that they feel better about themselves, like, that is just run, because like, that person does not care about you. It is literally self-serving for you to be in their life.
And that actually, the next indicator is actually, you don't think they have good intentions.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what we just talked about. Yeah. So the next indicator would be that you can't depend on their advice, which I've talked about. Yeah,
covered. Yeah.
I have covered that. Yeah, when the advice is shitty, it's just
yeah.
It's like, what am I getting from this conversation?
Yeah. Then you also not to say you lose respect for that person, but you don't, their advice doesn't hold any value.
Also, like,
so
if their advice is self-serving, like, if they're like, I've definitely seen situations where it's like, oh, I don't know if I should break up with my boyfriend. It's like, you definitely should. It's 100% the right decision. You should do it. And it's like, okay, like, are you telling me to do that because you want me to hang out with you more? Or like, do you actually genuinely not like them? Like, that's a mix of a lot of things.
That ties together the last two.
They don't have good intentions,
because they're giving you advice that's blatantly there to benefit themselves.
Yeah. But it's also like, are they even listening? Like, I think a lot of times when people give advice, they're not actually listening to what it is that you're saying. They're just kind of giving you blanket advice that like people say. If I'm like, oh, I don't really know how I feel about this guy. Like, I don't know, like, if I should break up with them or whatever. And I hate when people say, no, not with you. Not with you. But like, I hate when people say, yo, fuck that guy. He's ugly anyways. Nobody liked him. Like, none of that is helpful.
But it's like, wait, I actually liked him.
Yeah, but it's like, none of that is helpful, because like, I'm not telling you I don't think he's cute, I should break up with him. Like, I'm telling you about actual issues. And if your advice is, oh, well, like, fuck him because he wasn't even cute, how is that helpful to me? You know, like, and I feel like so many people do that because they just want to have like their friends back and be like, no matter what, I will support you in your decision. But you can feel that way, but actually, you know, like, listen to what I'm saying and give me sound advice, instead of just, oh, like, let's put this other person down. Like, let's put down your boyfriend so you feel better about breaking up with him. Like, no, like, that's really not helpful. And I see it so much like in movies and like reality TV and just in other situations. Like, I'll hear people telling their friends that and I'm like, oh my God, please stop. It is probably one of my biggest pet peeves when people are like, oh, like, she wasn't even cute anyways. Like, okay, not relevant because I was attracted to this person.
Okay, Sarah. You get it. But like, I mean, it's possible that that does work for somebody else and that it maybe just irritates you.
Yeah, it's possible. I can be grown to admit that that maybe that's just me.
I mean, that is irritating to me as well. I think when you just like, well, I didn't ask you to put the other person down.
But that's like a whole other, this is like a whole other topic, because this is like, how do you get over a breakup, and everyone deals with it differently. Like sometimes maybe you're the type of person, I don't know, but maybe you're the type of person where you need your friends to say like, that person was ugly, you know, like drop them. But like, I'm not that type of person.
Yeah. All right. The next one is, you're embarrassed by their behavior towards others.
Oh, this is, I mean, I haven't experienced this in friendships, but I've definitely experienced this in like dating people. And the biggest pet peeve, again, this is just, you're getting to know a lot about me and the things that I hate, but my biggest pet peeve when I'm dating somebody is the way that they talk to servers. Like if they're very rude, if they're very demanding, like that is the biggest indicator to me that you are a fucking dick. Because it's like, it's so rude. Like some people are so rude, and it's like, you're telling me that like you only turn it on for like people that you think are going to influence your social circle. And like, I'm not about that.
So like, I've had this situation with my ex-best friend. He was always rude to my girlfriend. He would say some blasphemous shit that like you'd get a little bit embarrassed about.
You're like, oh, ha ha ha, sorry.
Like when we ordered a Caesar at a restaurant, and then he's like, just like shoved it back to the server, and he's like, what did you guys put in this? It just tastes like ketchup and water. I'm like, okay, you could have done that in a better way, and it just feels embarrassed. Or like, there was many situations, this is all about the same person. I would be playing basketball with a group of people that like I all like respect, and he would just go all out and like be blasphemous. There was like one point where he like threw punches at this dude that I went to school with, and then like, it just becomes awkward, and you have to like kind of stand up for your friend, but then also like you are embarrassed by like the way he reacted to situations, and you kind of have to explain them, you know, to like other people.
Yeah, it's harder when it's like the example that I gave, it was you're just being rude to people that I don't know and don't care about. For you, it's like you're being rude to other people that I care about. And like, that's even worse. That lends itself to the next one, which is you make excuses for them. Ooh. Which is huge. Because when you find yourself being like, no, like that's just who they are, like that's just what they're like you don't get it, like you're like, I've been friends with them for so long, like those are all common things that I feel like even I've said for people, but it's excuses nonetheless.
I had to go through that so much. I had to constantly like over explain who this person was and what makes them great, as opposed to like, you know what I mean?
Like, you don't know the great things.
Yeah, because like my girlfriend at the time, like she was like, your friend is such a dick, he's so rude, like all this stuff, and I have to explain they are a great person sometimes, but like, yeah, it's rough when they're like being real disrespectful to the people you care about as well, and your friends are a reflection of you as well, so it is tough when you have to like constantly explain to other people like, yeah, like we're best friends, but like I'm not like that. I don't know, it's kind of weird. Let's say like I met a girl that I was interested in, but that girl also knows that, oh, you're best friends with him, and
best friends?
Or sorry,
you're best friends.
Or like that girl would know like, oh, but you're best friends with him, and like I know that he treated my best friend wrong, and then they just might put you in that same box where they're like, oh, you're just gonna be like rude like that and just like ghost me or things like that. So like you kind of have to, you know what I mean? Like, because it's a reflection.
Yeah, you're a combination of the closest 5 people that you keep.
Yeah.
I think that is a huge one. When I really understood that, that's when I was like, I need to be cutting out some of these people. Because, like, it's like your behaviors are just not, I can't justify it. I don't endorse it. It starts to rub off on you. If the closest 5 people to you that you're always hanging out with, always talking to, are people that you're kind of like, I don't really like these people, or I don't like who I am around these people, and that's everyone that you're surrounding yourself with, like that is gonna have a toll on you. I definitely didn't realize that, and I was like, I need to be surrounding myself with people that really make me happy, really love me for who I am, and like want to see me succeed, and like that I also really care about. Like it's reciprocal. Yeah. I think what you want in a friend really changes as you get older too. Like when I was younger, all I really wanted was somebody to have fun with, you know, like that's all your priorities are. And then as I got older, then I was like, I want somebody that I can grow with, you know, like it's kind of the same with, for me, choosing a romantic relationship. I want somebody that is going to stand the test of time, will always be there for me. We don't have to be interested in the same things, but like we will always be there for each other. And I want you to succeed. I want you to have goals in life. I want us to both achieve whatever it is that we want. And like that has changed a lot. I didn't used to feel that way because none of that was important to me when I was younger.
Yeah, before it was just about shooting the shit with anybody.
Yeah, it's like anybody that's down to kick it. That's why like sometimes misery loves company, because if you're just generally like pretty sad or like feeling shitty, like you don't want to be with someone that's like so happy-go-lucky and like so energetic all the time, because like you just want to be with somebody that's gonna like hate shit with you. And that's just what you need sometimes. But I think it's like you need to be aware.
Situational friends.
Yeah, situational friends.
The next one is you feel used.
I mean, this was probably the most recent friendship fallout. So this was a couple that we were friends with, and before the friendship falling out happened, the girl in the couple had asked me to borrow some clothes for a birthday party she was going to. And I was like, absolutely, for sure. Come over, try on a couple dresses, take whatever you want, and just give it back to me when you're done. And so she took like maybe like 4 or 5 different outfits. And then she just like took a while to get it back to me. But I was like, it's fine. Like I'm not in a hurry to get anything back. And she was doing a photo shoot. And she ended up bringing the clothes that I had given her to the shoot and styled their models in my clothes without asking me. And it wasn't until I saw on my Instagram that my clothes were on these random people that I was like, wait, what? Like, she told me that she wanted to use this for a birthday dinner, and like, it would have been totally fine. Like, I would have 100% been like, yeah, for sure, use my clothes on the models, it's great, whatever. But the fact that she never thought to ask me made me feel very used.
Yeah, you like, can't help but feel used.
Yeah, like, and point. So then, but the thing is, the weirdest part was that when I called her out and I was like, hey, like, are those my clothes? Like, it would have just been nice to get, like, a heads up so I didn't have to see it, like, on Instagram to know that it was my clothes that you were using on random people. And she was like, oh my God, like, it totally didn't cross my mind to ask you. And I was like, you could have made it up. You could have just lied and told me, like, hey, like, I was gonna reach out and I was gonna message you, but I totally forgot. That would have been more acceptable than it just didn't cross my mind at all to check in with you that, like, I'm gonna use your clothes on other people. Like, it just...
it's quite selfish.
Yeah, it's like
Also, she used it on... the model had a bigger breast size, so when you did
stretch out my clothes.
Yeah, when you got the top back, it didn't even fit you.
Yeah, so I was like, I was pretty bummed about that. But there were definitely a couple times with this particular couple where I felt like we were being used. I think like this kind of happens with friendships that I've experienced more now, where like I do obviously have like a following on social media and things like that, and I sometimes feel like people want to be friends with me because of that. And if I didn't have a following, then they wouldn't even care to say hello. Like, they don't care who I am. And I kind of can suss out now, like, what someone's ulterior motive is if they actually want to be friends with me for me.
I definitely felt that there was a lot of moments where it seemed like most of the conversations were about me? YouTube and like the whole like content creating world and how that works for you. And yeah
and like that's the thing is that I don't mind sharing that information. I don't mind talking about my experience, but when it feels like that's all you're really there for, that's when it's different. That's when I'll feel used. And so I think like in the past, like situations like this have happened, and I've just been very naive to be able to identify it as like, hey, I feel really shitty after you did that, and like that's not okay. Like I think in the past I would have made excuses for it or been like, oh well, like that's just me being sensitive. But like in this situation I was like, ooh, that's not cool. I'm not down with that.
And then there's also friends that only hit you up when they want something. But then there's also times where I've been guilty of that as well, where I'm like, like I do generally want to hit up this person more often, but then I only really remember to hit them up when I need something.
Yeah, 100%. That's like being the unfortunate friend that has a truck.
Oh,
and everyone's
anytime someone
like,
moves out, you're the homie.
And it's like, oh, I haven't heard from you in like 2 years, but sure, yeah, I'd love to help you move your mattress. That sucks. So the last indicator, according to this website, that you may or may not be in a toxic friendship is that you don't know why you're friends with them. And I think, have covered this throughout the whole of our podcast, but I mean, it's just pretty obvious. Like, if you're sitting there questioning, like, who is this person? Why am I friends with them? What am I gaining from this? Maybe it's time to walk away. And it might not be that they're a shitty person, and it might not be that anything dramatic happened, but it's just time.
And I'm telling you, this podcast is coming at the best time because social distancing is the best excuse you can give someone right now.
Man, I'm gonna stay
honestly,
home,
just staying at home at this time because, you know.
I mean, I think the one thing that they didn't talk about in this article that I can think of off the top of my head, because there are a lot of other things that people do that are toxic. I think a big thing is like somebody that is just so dramatic all the time and like just wants drama. Maybe it's just me speaking from my perspective because I am not a very dramatic person and I don't really like to have friends in my life that are very, very dramatic, and it's just like kind of an emotional roller coaster to be friends with them. Like, I think that, you know, like some people are just more dramatic than others, and you might enjoy that because it might be fun for you to like be along for the ride. But
there's some drama we enjoy, but there's a lot that we just can't
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think it's more when it is drama that like sucks you into it, you know? You almost feel like you're being taken on this emotional roller coaster that you didn't really sign up for. Yeah, I think it just depends on the type of friendships that you're after. But for me personally, I'm just not into super dramatic friendships. So I usually find it really emotionally draining, and I can't be in a lot of friendships that are emotionally draining. Because it's just like I don't have the capacity for it, and it's only really something that I learned as I got older, for sure. So now we're gonna answer a couple of questions as part of our Q&A. I asked my followers on Instagram if they had any specific questions about toxic friendships, and there are some good ones. Is it possible to acknowledge the toxicity of the relationship and grow and move on together in a healthy way, or do you think it's better to simply break things off and move on? What do you think?
I think it's definitely worth to try to like address it and then talk through it, and kind of like you would in a relationship as well. If there's certain things that aren't working or that's like bothering you, you should be able to talk about it.
Yeah,
I think
what we never talked about in this whole episode is communication.
Yeah.
And like,
which is a big one.
Yeah.
That's huge, because I think it's important to communicate when you're...
But that's the thing, is that I feel like in romantic relationships, I'm very good at communicating. But in friendships, I'm very bad at communicating. Like, I think it's just because I'm like very non-confrontational in that way, where I'm like, I don't want to call you out because then we have to do this whole thing, and I would rather us just sizzle out.
Kind of feels like
and
an
like we both,
intervention.
like I don't want to do that, and that probably is me being toxic because I'm not like standing up for what I believe in or like what I want to say, and I'm holding you accountable but not holding myself accountable.
But then that could also mean that it's just that relationship probably doesn't mean that much to you. So that's the thing. You have to kind of understand like the value of like, if it is toxic and if you feel like it can be fixed and there is a relationship, a friendship that you really value, then it definitely is worth talking about it, seeing if you guys can get through it.
Especially if it's just like one or two of these things.
Yeah.
And if it only happens like occasionally. Like, I will admit that I have been quite toxic to people in some of these ways, not like overtly like being a very, very toxic friend, like maybe the friend that you constantly are bringing up. But like, I've definitely done these things at least once or twice, and I've luckily had friends that will call me out and be like, yo, like, I did not like that. Like, if you do that again, like, I'm not here for it. And like, as uncomfortable as that makes me, like, I really appreciate, shout out Tawny. Like, Tawny's definitely called me out before and been like, I didn't feel good about that. I really didn't like the way that you dealt with that. And like, totally fair. And it makes me uncomfortable as hell. But like, her friendship is one that I really, really love. And it is one that's more good than it is bad. Like, the times where it's bad, it's like, you just, like, it's a relationship. You're bound to have negative moments, but if you can communicate with somebody and get through it, then like, more power to you. Like, you should definitely try to make that work. The ones that I would say you should probably leave that friendship are the ones that make you feel either sad about yourself, like you're less worthy, or you leave it feeling more drained and like more anxious. Like, I think things like that kind of have to do with your gut and the way that you feel about yourself, like, that is a really big indicator that maybe this friendship isn't for you.
Also, another indicator of like when it's time to move on is if you did talk about all the things that, you know, are toxic and that you just don't feel like you're being heard. That's another indicator that you should probably move on.
How do you get rid of a toxic friend if said toxic friend is friends with your whole friend group? I actually got this question a lot, and
cut out your whole friend group.
No, like, it's hard. I mean, it's like, to actually end a toxic friendship. Okay, so this we never talked about. The way that I see it, you can either have like that big friendship breakup and you can sit down and talk about like, okay, like, this is what you do that makes me feel really like shitty or upset or whatever, and like, this is why I can't be friends with you. You can have that breakup, or you can kind of mutually understand that you're not each other's people, but you're gonna have to suss that out for yourself, which is the best way to part. And then at that point, like, for me, I never want to be on bad terms with anybody. So like, if I'm ending things with a really close friend, we can still be friends or acquaintances. Like, I'll still say hi to you. I still want what's best for you. You know, like, I'll still, if I see you, I'll be like, hey, what's up? Like, how are you doing? You know, like, it's not fake, because I'm just like, I genuinely want you to be happy, but just not with me in your life. I think now that I'm older, I have a very good understanding of somebody can be in my life. I can still be really cordial with them. I can still be really friendly with them, but I just won't allow you back into my life in a way in which you can hurt me again. Or like, I won't let you get that close to me so that you have that power over me again. You know, like, I don't know if that makes sense, but like, you don't have to cut out all these people from your life and like ignore them and like have bad blood with them. You can just not have them be as close. And then that way, when they disappoint you or when they like say shit that's kind of rude, like it doesn't hurt you as much because mentally you've already put them in a place where they can't hurt you like that because you're not that close with them. You know, I think that if you can mentally do that, like say with this toxic friend that's in your friend group, if you can either have a conversation with them and be like, I can't be cool with you like that anymore, or you just like kind of distance yourself from them but still continue to hang out, acknowledging that this person doesn't have that effect on you because they're not that close with you can really help, because I think a lot of it is mental. And so like you can choose whether or not you want to have that conversation with them or if you want to just mentally decide that for yourself. But like if there's no way of avoiding this person, I think that's kind of the best approach that I would take. I don't know. What do you think?
I would say like if you're hanging out with this person one-on-one, that's probably not the move. But is this one person being toxic in this group setting? Or other also like do other people feel it? Yeah, like do other people feel that way, or like, oh, I don't respect the way that person is talking to you, or whatever it may be. I would say finding that balance is the best word that I can use for it.
Yeah, if your friend group is not willing to drop this person and you have to for whatever reason stay friends with them, then I think that it's best to create those boundaries for yourself. But also what you can do, I used to have a lot of groups of friends when I was in like high school and college. But then as I got older, I had individual friendships, and I found that I really, really like having individual friendships because there are people that I'll hang out with in a group setting, but I actually don't really get to know them on a personal level or what our dynamic is like until it's just me and them. And so now I have a lot of friendships that are literally just me and one other person. And even if we're all friends, I still try to focus on that individual relationship because it is going to be very different from a group dynamic. And then that way you can also limit how much time you're spending with the group if you're still seeing like your other friends that you do fuck with. So the next question that we got is, how do you differentiate between I have my own life, I can't message you constantly, versus I don't really care to put in the effort? This sounds very much like me. This sounds like the way that I treat my friendships.
And like like a needy friend, right?
But that's the thing, is that like I have both of these responses to different people. And to the people where I'm like, I don't really care to put in the effort, we're not close friends like that. I'm not gonna lead you to believe that like I will be there for you 24/7, like I got your back, because like I know that I can't expend my energy like that, because it sounds really rude to say I don't care to put in the effort, but for some people I really just can't. And it's like, I think for me it's really important that I have a very small circle, because I know myself and I can't be there for everybody, and it's only gonna disappoint you if you want that from me, because I can't give it to you. I mean, I don't overtly say I have my own life, I can't message you constantly, but that's the understanding. Like the understanding is that like we all have our own lives and we can't constantly message, because it takes a really long time to sit at your phone and just message. It literally is just you sitting there for hours doing nothing but talking. And so like that's why I kind of prefer to like talk on the phone. But I only treat my friendships in that way with other people that will treat it that way back at me, because I'm not going to be really close friends with somebody that is very needy and needs me to be constantly messaging them, because it's only going to hurt them. And so I usually make it very, very, very clear in the beginning that that is not what I'm here for, and I can't sign up for that. And so if that's what you want from me, then unfortunately you're going to get, I don't really care to put in the effort. And I don't mean it in any negative way. It doesn't mean that I don't like you. It's just that you need something that I can't give you. So like, just please don't expect that from me.
So like our friendship circle is pretty similar to us in regards to like we all have that understanding. Like we've messaged our friends where like we won't get a response, or like maybe we'll get it in like a few days or whatever.
But I never think that they hate me.
Yeah, it's
I'm
never
just
like
you're
that.
Busy.
So I think that's like there's like a certain sense of security in the friendship, and you just know that like they're busy as much as you are as well, because there's times where we can't like immediately respond to our messages.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I feel like I think that it's just like I expect a level of self-awareness. Yeah. Like I will still be friends with you if you have those type of needs, but I can't be a super close friend for you, because you're gonna need me and I'm not gonna be able to be there for you, and it's just gonna be disappointing for you and it's gonna be stressful for me, and I don't think that that's fair for either of us. So the next question is it bad for you to feel like their mental illness and self-sabotage is too much for you to handle? I mean, this one's heavy AF.
Yeah.
But it's so hard. I feel like this is a very situational one. I don't want to really give advice on it. It is hard to be there for your friends, especially your friends that need it more. But then also being able to check in with yourself and be like, am I okay? Am I stretching myself too thin? Because like I'm putting this person's need before mine. And as much as that sounds really, really shitty, Like, sometimes you do need to do that because you need to be okay too. And like, you can't be there for somebody if you're not there for yourself and you're not taking care of yourself. The way that I personally see self-sabotage, and like, you know, this happens to everybody. I've been in this situation, you've been in this situation. Everyone goes through a phase, some longer than others, where they're going to be self-sabotaging. And when I see that happen in my friends, honestly, I kind of just let them do it, because no matter what I tell you, you will continue to do it because this is what you need to go through. And that's the way that I see it. And like, I'm not going to be the type of friend that's like, you have to live your life the way that I want you to live it. You need to listen to my advice, because it doesn't matter. You know, like, people will tell me advice, but at the end of the day, I know what I want to do. And I just want you to be there when I need you. You know, and like, a lot of times your friends might not actually be asking you for advice. You should also be aware of that when you are talking to your friends. Like, are you just giving unsolicited advice? Is no one listening to what you're saying?
They'll tell you their problems, but they don't need an answer.
Yeah, that's me. I always tell people my problems, but I do not care what you have to say about it. Like, I'm just that type of person, and I realize that I always kind of update my friends on decisions I've made, but I rarely will ever be like, I don't know, what do you think? Should I do this or should I do that? So I kind of apply that to my friends, where I'm like, you're gonna do whatever it is that you want to do. And if I really truly love and care about you, then I will still be here for you. And you might be doing things that I don't agree with, but at the end of the day, like, this is something that you need to go through for whatever reason. I wouldn't enable this type of behavior in somebody where I'm really like, you're causing harm to other people. But I think that if you're going through a phase where you just really need to explore this side of yourself and it might not be healthy, then I can't really stop you from doing that.
Yeah, to answer the question, I don't think that you should feel any guilt or feel bad for thinking that it's too much. Because if you feel that way, I would say trust your gut. Because, I mean, it might just be too much. And it's not, I wouldn't say that it would be your responsibility to be there. So I don't think you should feel bad for it.
As much as it really sucks, like, you really don't owe anybody anything.
Yeah.
And you owe it to yourself to be okay for yourself. How do you cope with still loving and missing your toxic friend? I feel like you can answer this because of your really sad breakup with your friend. I do miss it a lot. You have dreams about him all the time. I do. I have dreams of us rekindling our friendship. I mean, but that's the thing, is that friendship breakups are usually as dramatic as romantic breakups, and sometimes they hurt even more because, like, this person was with you for so long. Yeah. Like, it was like one of your longest relationships. So I do have like certain like things that bring it back up. So like, for instance, when my current friends or family members that do talk about this person or want to reach out to them or hang out with them, and if they share that with me, it does kind of affect me, because this was someone that was going to be everything in my life, and it does hurt that like other people have relationships with that other people have relationships and I don't, and out of something that was out of our control. Would you say that you still like love and care about him even though you guys aren't friends? 100%. Yeah, definitely do like have a lot of love and respect for him, and I think I don't treat it too different as like an ex that was good to you. They're an ex for a reason, but I still have a lot of love and respect for them, and just know that it didn't work out between us, but they're still all in all a great person, and I do miss the times that we had, but those are things that can never come back. So for instance, like, I just know that in my head that if I were to rekindle or patch things up with this person, it still wouldn't be the same. Like, it would never go back to that. So I can miss what we had, but just understand that I've moved on, and that there's no way of actually getting it back. There is a lot of toxic things. Those things don't... It was also situated in a certain time. And that time has not exactly. Passed. And that time has passed. And also those things just... Those toxic behaviors, not to say that they can't change, but it normally, it would stay within that relationship. Because it's like, yeah, a relationship is between two people. It doesn't mean that that's his friendship with other people. And maybe that's why they can continue to have a friendship with him. But just for whatever reason, like, your relationship was filled with toxicity. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of the same as a relationship, like a romantic relationship. If you get back with an ex that, let's say, it ended horrible, or not, let's just say like you realize how bad it was for you, how toxic it was. I don't know if any of you guys have a successful getting back with your ex. Something's gotta change. Yeah, something has to change. I don't know, like, I feel like personally I don't see it working, like, to go back with an ex and those issues that you went through, like, if it wasn't... I think only if you had enough time to grow and change as people. If both of you grew, yeah, because, I mean, it's like, you have to identify what the issues are. So it's like, with your friendship, you had all of these issues where you felt that he was being toxic. Those things would have to change for you to be friends with them again, but then the friendship would change. It would look very different. So I think, like, also another thing with kind of moving on from, I guess, a toxic friendship is that you have to make other friends. You have to fill that hole. It's the same with, I think, romantic relationships, where just because you had a romantic relationship that didn't work out, it doesn't mean that other ones aren't going to work out in the future, you know? And like with friendship, if you had a best friend that you had to part ways with because of toxicity, then it doesn't mean that everyone else is going to hurt you out there.
Yeah.
And you have to try to fill that hole somehow.
Yeah, that's the thing. You just got to keep positive and move forward and know that you'll find something else. And how do I cope with the lost friendship? Just realizing the situation and just knowing that
there was a reason why you had to walk away from it.
There's a reason why you had to walk away from it, and yeah, you just gotta move forward.
So the next one is, how many friends do you actually consider them to be real friends?
I mean, I can count them on one hand.
Yeah, I have very little. I think in terms of people that I know will be there for me, like if I hit them up and I'm like, hey, like I'm going through this thing, I need help, I would say I probably have about 4 to 6. Like, I'm not counting them right now, but I would say about 4 to 6.
Yeah, I would say around the same. And I think it's nice that, like, our friend groups just kind of collided, where it's, like, a lot of your close friends have become my close friends and vice versa. And
we still have our own friends, too, but, like, it is nice to have... They're not even, like, couple friends. They're just people that we're friends with. Yeah, individuals that we're friends with, which is nice.
Definitely, as you grow older, the circle of friends does get smaller, and I think just because that is, like, you need to pick and choose and really be aware of the company you keep, as opposed to, I guess when you were in high school, it was just like, I'm popular, I have all these friends, but they're not, a lot of them are probably not the best for you, or you guys are just going in different directions, and all that is fine.
That's the biggest thing that changes, I think, with age, is that friendships has a lot to do with popularity, I think, when you're in high school, if you cared about that at all. But I definitely was one of those people that did care. And at that point, it's kind of like the more friends you have, the better. But now I'm like quality over quantity, for sure. Okay, the next question is how to identify if you're the toxic friend. We kind of touched on this.
Yeah, we did.
Be self-aware.
Be self-aware. Understand, like, for me, I've definitely realized there's, like, certain times where I was being toxic, and I think it's important to be self-aware.
What kind of behaviors do you remember?
I think it's just, like, very small things in, like, what I said, or, like, maybe I wasn't the best person at the time.
Yeah, you do sometimes, like, try to implement your opinions on other people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't do that.
I have my mistakes, you know what I mean? But I think it's like, I learn with like each interaction, and then just kind of in retrospect kind of realize maybe it was wrong, maybe it wasn't, and then just grow from there. And it's all just like a little bit of practice, you know, if you...
Yeah, it takes time. It takes time to realize like what your own behaviors are. Because for me, like I've definitely been guilty of being toxic in the way of taking more than giving.
Yeah.
And that just took me a long time to realize, like, hey, like this relationship is not for you. This person needs a lot more from you and you're not giving it to them for whatever reason. Like, you need to either stop doing that or you need to end this friendship because it's just upsetting to this other person and it's just really shitty on your part.
I think that's something that I've realized even like as of recent. I'm really bad at giving gifts, and I feel like I think we're at a stage in our life right now where like we're getting so many gifts like for our baby and for like things like that. So like a lot of our friends like are just coming through with so many gifts, and I feel like a part of me is like
we are kind of bad at like, you know, when you're not supposed to show up to dinner like empty-handed or like show up to a party empty-handed, we always do that because we're always running late, and we need to fix that because it's 100%. Not cool.
Yeah, and 100%. That's what I'm saying. Like, we're like, you just have to be self-aware. Like, I think we're realizing this in ourselves, and as long as you're self-aware and your intentions are good, you can fix it. We can slowly realize if we're being a little bit toxic that, like, and try to fix it.
I was reading the list, I was reading the article, and like there are just things that go off my head where I'm like, ooh, you did that. You did that before.
Yeah, there's certain things that apply to us, but I'm saying like,
and if you find yourself getting defensive, that you're guilty. Yeah, that's how you know.
But that's the thing. Don't be defensive either. Just like let it.
That's easy for you to say.
Yeah, you're defensive about
you're
almost everything.
So defensive. I call you out on something, and then like you come at me with some kind of defensive excuse. But it doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, do you hear yourself? You're digging your hole even bigger right now. Okay, so the last question is, do you think toxic people can change and better their behavior? 110%.
100%.
I think that it does help when they know what those toxic behaviors are. So this is where I'm guilty, where I don't tend to have too many friendship breakups or like really call people out or communicate. When I find that something's shitty, I'm usually just like, okay, I'm just gonna trickle away now. And like that can either hurt people, which I don't know if that's happened because no one's ever been like, you really hurt me when you did this. But the best way is when you're somebody like Tani, shout out Tani, that like will tell me it made me really upset when you didn't acknowledge my feelings. And like that's something that she's actually told me. And she's been like, I really don't like it. It makes me feel like I can't tell you anything. It really made me feel like this person cares enough to have this conversation with me and let them know how much it's hurting them. And if I care about them, at that point, it's my decision. If I really care about them, I will fix my behaviors. And if I don't, then I'll be like, okay, that's not something that I can do. And I would like let the friendship go at that point, because that's where she was at. I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. You're totally right. I did that. And that's not okay. And like, I needed to be able to sit there and accept it and not get defensive and be like, you're attacking me. But that's the thing, is that you can be toxic in a certain relationship and not be toxic in other relationships. That's why it's not cut and dry. It's not, this is a toxic person. It's that the relationship, the situation is toxic. Mm-hmm. So I think that that's also a really important thing. If you are going to bring it up with somebody, like their toxic behaviors, like don't make them feel as if they're like a really shitty person all around, because that might not be the case. It might be the case, but it might not be the case. And so it's really just about your relationship to each other. It's not about them as a person. It's not about their relationship with other people. It's about your guys' relationship. People change.
People change.
Oh, that should be our next topic. Okay, I think our next topic I've decided for next week is once a cheater, always a cheater. Oh yeah.
People change.
Yeah, people change. Yeah, so I'll be asking for some questions on my Instagram, so make sure you look out for that. But yeah, that's a great segue, actually. You can follow me at Your Girl Neens.
You can follow me at Day On's Day Off.
And our podcast IG at Neens Deens. And we will see you guys next week. Much love. Stay safe out there, and, you know, reevaluate some of these friendships. Make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that you love and bring out the best in you and want you to succeed.
Exactly. So every Tuesday morning we'll be dropping at 5 a.m. Boop.
Bye.
Bye.